Hey, what's up, guys? Vasya here, calling from my kitchen in Russia. You know, every city has that one park, right? In your America, maybe it's Central Park in New York, or Golden Gate Park in San Francisco. Nice places where people walk dogs, kids play, old folks feed the pigeons. We have same thing here in Moscow. Bitsa Park. Beautiful place, actually. Big forest, about 8 square kilometers. That's like 3 square miles for you guys. Soviet times, people went there for mushrooms, for walks, to play chess under the trees. But from 1992 to 2006, this park became something else. A graveyard, a hunting ground for one man who decided to play a different kind of game. His name was Alexander Pichushkin. Maybe you heard of him, maybe not. But in Russia, everybody knows this name. The Bitsa Park Maniac, the chessboard killer. The man who wanted to murder 64 people, one for each square on a chessboard. I want to tell you this story today because, I grew up in these same neighborhoods. I know these Soviet apartment blocks. I know what it's like when system doesn't give a shit about you, when you're just another broken kid in a broken country. And sometimes, man, sometimes this creates monsters. So grab your coffee, sit down. This story, it's not pretty, but it's real. Let me tell you how it really was. October 2006. Marina Moskalova, she's 61 years old. Working as a saleswoman in Moscow. Her son Mikhail, he's 36, and one day in June, he doesn't come home. She waits. She calls. Nothing. She goes to police, like you would do in America, right? But here in Russia, especially in those years, police, how to say this politely, they didn't always care so much about missing people, especially if person is adult man who maybe likes to drink. Police tell her maybe he went somewhere, maybe he'll come back. But Marina, she's a mother. She knows something is wrong. She keeps pushing, keeps asking questions, and she remembers something. Last time she saw her son, he mentioned going to Bitsa Park with a friend from work, a guy named Alexander Pichushkin. Police look at this Pichushkin guy. Nothing special, you know? He's 33 years old, works as supermarket loader, lives with his mom and stepsister in same Soviet apartment building where he grew up. Neighbors say he's quiet, polite, helps old ladies carry groceries. Just normal Russian guy. But then they check his phone, and they find something interesting. Before Mikhail disappeared, Pichushkin called him, and not just Mikhail. They find connections to other missing people, a lot of other missing people. So they bring him in for questioning. And you know what this crazy bastard does? He confesses, but not to one murder, not to 5. He says he killed 63 people. 63! And he's sorry about one thing only, that he didn't make it to 64 to fill his whole chessboard. This is the story of how that happened, how a skinny kid from Moscow suburbs became one of Russia's worst serial killers. And trust me, it's more fucked up than any movie. Let me take you back, all the way back. April 9th, 1974. Soviet Union, Brezhnev times. You Americans, you probably remember these years as Cold War, right? Rocky fighting Drago, Red Scare, all that. But for us, life was just life. Not great, not terrible. Just Soviet life. Alexander Yurovich Pichushkin was born in Mytishi. That's a city in Moscow region, about 20 kilometers north of Moscow. Think of it like a suburb, but Soviet style. His mother was Natalia Pichushkina. His father, well, the guy liked vodka more than family. When little Sasha, that's what they called him, Sasha, when he was less than 1 year old, father left, just walked out. This happened a lot in Soviet times, you know. Alcohol was big problem, still is, actually. So Sasha's raised by his mother and his grandfather. 2 years old in 1976, they moved to Moscow proper. Southwest part of the city, district called Zuzino. Khersonskaya Street. And here's important detail for you to understand this story. They moved to apartment very close to Bitsa Park. The same park where, 30 years later, he would commit almost all his murders. Let me explain something about Soviet apartments, because I don't think you have this in America. We called them Khrushchevka, these panel buildings from Khrushchev times. 5 floors, no elevator, thin walls, small apartments. Maybe 40 square meters. That's like 400 square feet for whole family. Kitchen so small you can barely turn around. But you know what? For Soviet people, having your own apartment was luxury. Before this, many families lived in kommunalka, communal apartments, where you share kitchen and bathroom with 5 other families. So Khrushchevka? Not so bad. But here's the thing about little Sasha. From what people remember, he was normal kid at first. Friendly, not causing trouble, quiet and polite. But then something happened. And this something, man, this changed everything. He was 4 years old, playing on playground like kids do. There were these old Soviet swings, metal frame, wooden seat, heavy things. Sasha fell off the swing, and the swing, it swung back and hit him in the head. Hard. Traumatic brain injury. That's what doctors called it. Black and blue mark, in Russian we say черепно-мозговая травма, ЧМТ. For you Americans, think of it like severe concussion, but worse. Hit to the head, brain gets damaged. After this, people started noticing changes. Sasha became withdrawn, didn't talk much, didn't play with other kids. He developed speech problems, couldn't pronounce certain sounds correctly. And later, when he started school, they found out he had trouble with writing and reading. In medical terms, dyslexia and dysgraphia. He would confuse similar sounds, write S instead of SH, read very slowly, syllable by syllable. Now, let me tell you something important about Soviet times. In America, you have all these special education programs, speech therapists, child psychologists. We didn't have this shit. Or we had it, but very basic. If kid had problems, they either pushed through or they got sent to special school. Nobody asked why child is struggling. Nobody checked if maybe there's something wrong with his brain from that injury. They just said, he's stupid, or he's difficult, and moved on. For Sasha, this meant hell. Pure hell. At first, he was in regular school, but other kids, you know how children are. They're fucking cruel. They made fun of his speech, called him dummy, made him the target. And teachers, instead of helping, they humiliated him in front of the class. Why can't you read simple sentence? Why do you write like a baby? This kind of thing. His mother, under pressure from school, transferred him to special boarding school. Number 136, logopedic boarding school, they called it. This was school for kids with speech defects. Now you might think, okay, this is better, right? Kids with similar problems, special teachers? But no, this place was worse. See, Soviet special schools, they mixed everyone together. Kids with speech problems, kids with mental disabilities, kids from bad families, orphans, kids with violent behavior, all in one place. And little Sasha, skinny kid with glasses who couldn't speak right, he became target again. Only this time, it wasn't just words, it was fists. But there was one person who gave a shit about him. His grandfather. This man, his mother's father, he was the only bright spot in Sasha's life. Grandfather was a veteran, fought in the Great Patriotic War. That's what we call World War II. Strong man, traditional values, but kind heart. He saw that his grandson was suffering, that the boy had intelligence that nobody was nurturing. So grandfather did something beautiful. He taught Sasha how to play chess. Now, chess in Soviet Union, this is not just a game. It's like religion, you understand. After Fischer beat Spassky in '72, every Soviet kid wanted to play chess. It was intellectual sport. It was prestige. It was the game of the mind. And for Sasha, who couldn't talk right, who couldn't read right, who was beaten and humiliated every day, chess became his language. He was good at it, really good. Grandfather would take him to Bitsa Park. that same park I mentioned, and they would play chess with other old men under the trees, and Sasha would beat them. 10-year-old kid beating grown men at chess. He found his talent. He found his identity. On that chessboard, nobody made fun of his speech. On that chessboard, he was in control. He was smart. He was powerful. Grandfather also set up a pull-up bar in their apartment storeroom, trying to make Sasha physically stronger. He encouraged the boy, told him he was intelligent, told him he had potential. For Sasha, this man was everything. Not just grandfather, best friend, father figure, the only person who believed in him. But then came 1988. Sasha was 14 years old. Grandfather told him he was moving out. Met a woman, wanted to live with her. Told Sasha it was time for him to live with his mother full time. And for Sasha, this was the ultimate betrayal. The one person who gave a shit about him, who saw his worth, was abandoning him. He felt like ghost in his own home, unwanted, unloved, forgotten. This is when something snapped inside him. Outwardly, Sasha was still polite, quiet, helpful. But inside, he started to hate. Hate his mother for abandoning him emotionally. Hate his grandfather for abandoning him physically. Hate the world that rejected him over and over. As teenager, his personality changed. From the weak kid who took beatings, he became aggressive. Started attacking younger kids at school, bullying them, threatening them. One time, he grabbed a younger boy by the leg and threatened to throw him out the window. Teachers started noticing these rage episodes. But did anyone send him to psychologist? No. Did anyone try to understand what was happening in his head? No. After finishing boarding school, he enrolled in construction college to become a carpenter. Here, he tried to reinvent himself. Bought American military boots with high laces, tried to look tough, tried to flirt with girls, but it never went anywhere. His mother couldn't remember him ever having a girlfriend. What she did remember was a note from a handsome male classmate that ended with, "I kiss you." And she remembered that Sasha was always drawn to older men, always seeking that father figure he never had, always looking for grandfather's approval from strangers in the park. He also started writing poetry. But when he showed it to his classmates, they laughed at him, laughed at his words, laughed at his feelings. So he tried to buy their friendship instead, gave them money, bought them drinks, tried to be generous. But they just took advantage of him. He couldn't finish the college, dropped out, started working simple jobs. Loader in supermarket, apartment hallway cleaner. Jobs that didn't require him to talk much. Jobs where he could be invisible. Just another face in the crowd. Just another nobody in post-Soviet Moscow. But in 1992, something happened. Something that would start his journey from bullied victim to serial killer. Let me tell you about his only friend, Mikhail Odichuk. Now, in your American high schools, you had jocks and nerds and all these different groups, right? In Soviet schools, we had same thing, just different names. And Odichuk, this guy was popular. Handsome, good at sports, good with girls. Everything Sasha wasn't. But for some reason, Odichuk befriended Sasha. They would hang out, drink together, talk. And for Sasha, this meant everything. Finally, someone saw him, someone treated him like equal. But then Odichuk started dating a girl. And this girl, she didn't like Sasha. Thought he was weird, creepy. She told Odichuk to stop hanging out with him. And Odichuk, he listened to her. Started avoiding Sasha. Stopped returning his calls. Another betrayal. Another rejection. Sasha invited Odichuk to Bitsa Park. Said they should drink together, talk like old times. And Odichuk came. They drank vodka near a sewage well, one of those concrete structures in the park. You know, In Soviet times, Bitsa Park had this network of underground sewers and drainage tunnels. Part of city's water management system. Big concrete pipes, manholes, that kind of thing. They're drinking, they're talking. And then, Sasha makes his move. He pushes Odichuk, tries to throw him down into the sewage well. But Odichuk fights back. He's stronger, more athletic. They struggle. Odichuk falls, but not into the well. He's injured, bleeding from his head, but alive. He crawls away, makes it out of the park, goes to police. And police, they do nothing. This is 1992, right at the moment when Soviet Union just fell apart. Russia is in chaos. Mafia wars, economic collapse, crime everywhere. One guy pushing another guy in a drunken fight? Police don't give a fuck. They don't even register the complaint properly. So Pichushkin walks free. And this is important moment. He tried to kill someone and nothing happened to him. No punishment, no consequences. He learned that he could do this, that he could get away with it, but he wasn't ready yet. He waited. For 9 years, he waited. During these years, he kept working his dead-end jobs, kept living with his mother, kept playing chess in Bitsa Park, but inside, something was building, something dark and hungry. In 2001, he started killing. Let me explain to you how he did it, because this is important to understand his psychology. His victims were almost always the same type. Elderly men, usually homeless or alcoholics, people from the margins of society, people nobody would miss immediately. In Russia, especially in those wild 90s and early 2000s, there were many such people. Soviet Union collapsed. Pensions became worthless. Social services disappeared. Many old people ended up on the streets or barely surviving. Pichushkin would find these men in and around his neighborhood. He was friendly, polite, courteous. "Hey, grandfather, want to drink some vodka with me? I have good vodka. We can go to the park, enjoy the nature." In Russian culture, sharing vodka is social thing. It's bonding. It's how men talk to each other. So these lonely old men, they would agree. Why not? Free vodka, someone to talk to. But while they were talking, Pichushkin was preparing. Usually he brought a bottle of vodka, glass bottle. Sometimes he brought a hammer. And at some point, when the victim was relaxed, maybe drunk, definitely not expecting anything, Pichushkin would strike. One blow to the head with the bottle or hammer. Most of them died instantly or lost consciousness immediately. Then he would drag the body to one of the sewer manholes scattered throughout the park. These were heavy concrete covers over deep holes that led to underground drainage system. He would open the cover, throw the body down. The victims would fall 5, 6, sometimes 10 meters down into the darkness, into the water and sewage below. And Pichushkin would go home, wash his hands, go to work the next day like nothing happened. But here's what's interesting, and this is where psychology comes in. He wasn't some cold, emotionless killer. He was actually afraid. Before each murder, he would drink to calm his nerves. He used alcohol like anesthesia to numb himself to what he was about to do. And when victims survived the initial blow, when they were moaning in pain or struggling, he would panic. Couldn't stand to hear their suffering. This is why throwing them down the sewers was perfect for him. He didn't have to see them die, didn't have to hear them scream. Just push them into the hole, close the cover, walk away. This tells us something important. This wasn't some sadistic monster who enjoyed watching people suffer. This was a deeply damaged person who killed out of psychological compulsion, but who couldn't actually face the reality of what he was doing. But let me tell you what he was really doing. On a symbolic level, I mean, remember I told you about his father? Alcoholic who abandoned him. And his grandfather? The man who betrayed him, chose a woman over him. Almost all of Pichushkin's victims were elderly men, often alcoholics. He was killing his father over and over, killing his grandfather over and over, taking revenge on the men who abandoned him, who hurt him, who made him feel worthless. And remember the chess? Each victim was a square on his chessboard. He kept a chessboard at home, and for each person he killed, he would mark a square. His goal was to fill all 64 squares, to complete the board, to win the game. For him, murder was how he gained control, how he proved he was smart, powerful, important. On that chessboard of death, he was the master. He decided who lived and who died. Nobody could reject him. Nobody could abandon him, because he was the one with the power. And as time went on, he became bolder. At first, he hid the bodies in the sewers, but then he started leaving them in the park, started wanting people to find them, to know about his work, to see how clever he was. He would talk to his victims for hours before killing them, would listen to their dreams and hopes and plans. Then he would take those dreams away, take their lives away, and in doing this, he felt like a god, like he had ultimate power over human existence. Some of his co-workers later said that Pichushkin seemed stuck in the 80s, like he never moved forward, never developed as a person, still had this rigid, outdated view of the world. And this is important to understand. Emotionally and psychologically, he was frozen in time, frozen at that moment when his grandfather betrayed him, when he realized nobody would ever love him. He constructed a persona for himself, the brutal killer, the evil genius, the man who couldn't be caught. But underneath, fear, weakness, the same scared little boy who got hit by a swing. From 2001 to 2006, 5 years, he killed and killed and killed. 49 confirmed victims, probably more that we don't know about. And police? They didn't connect the dots for a long time. You have to understand, this is Russia in early 2000s, still recovering from the chaos of the 90s. Police resources are limited, and these victims, homeless people, alcoholics, marginalized men, the kind of people who disappear and nobody investigates too hard. But then he made a mistake, a stupid, careless mistake. Remember I told you about Marina Moskaliova at the beginning? The woman whose son disappeared? That son, Mikhail Moskalyov, he was Pichushkin's co-worker at the supermarket. Not a homeless man, not an alcoholic. Just a regular guy with a job and a mother who would look for him. June 14th, 2006. Pichushkin invites Moskalyov to Bitsa Park to drink. This is his standard routine by now. But this time is different. This time, people know they went together. There are witnesses. And more importantly, Pichushkin was caught on security camera at the supermarket walking out with Moskalyov. When Moskalyov doesn't come home, his mother goes to police. And this time, police actually investigate. They look at security footage. They see Pichushkin. They check his phone records. They see he called Moskalyov right before he disappeared. So on June 15th, next day, they bring Pichushkin in for questioning. And you know what? He confesses almost immediately. But not just to Moskalyov. He confesses to everything. Later, he made up this story about how he deliberately left clues, how he wanted to be caught, how he was so smart that he orchestrated his own capture. Bullshit. Pure bullshit. He made a sloppy mistake because he was overconfident, because he thought he was untouchable. And when police confronted him, he cracked. But then, once he realized he was going to prison anyway, he did what he always wanted. He became famous. He became the star. In his confession, he claimed 63 murders, showed them his chessboard with squares marked off, took them on a tour of Bitsa Park, showing them where he killed people, where he threw bodies, gave detailed descriptions, names, dates. He remembered everything, every single victim, like a recording device in his head. And you know what? He was proud of it. proud of being a serial killer. Finally, people were paying attention to him. Finally, he was somebody important. The trial started in September 2007, and Pichushkin treated it like a performance. He dressed in black and white striped shirt, like a criminal from old movies. He smirked at the cameras. He gave interviews, explained his philosophy, acted like this evil genius. In court, he was arrogant, dismissive of the prosecutor, savoring the details of his crimes, making jokes, acting casual about murder, and all the time he was playing to the audience, craving their attention, their shock, their fear. Even if it was negative attention, it was still attention. And for someone who spent his whole life being invisible, this was intoxicating. He demanded the death penalty, wanted to die like a legendary criminal. But Russia had abolished the death penalty in 1996, moved to life sentences instead. So the court gave him life in prison, life without possibility of parole. And this destroyed him, because he wanted to be executed, wanted to go out in a blaze of glory, to be remembered as this ultimate villain. Instead, he got what he feared most: invisibility, being forgotten, spending the rest of his life in a small cell, slowly being erased from public consciousness. Today, Alexander Pichushkin is in a maximum security prison in Ivanovo region, about 300 kilometers northeast of Moscow. That's like 200 miles for you Americans. He's kept in solitary confinement, which in Russian prisons means a cell about 2 by 3 meters. That's roughly 6 by 9 feet. Concrete walls, small window, metal bed, toilet in the corner. He's allowed 1 hour of exercise per day in a small enclosed yard. That's it. No contact with other prisoners, no chess, no games. Just him and 4 walls, 23 hours a day, for the rest of his life. When journalists have interviewed him over the years, he still maintains this persona of the evil genius. Still uses the same rehearsed phrases, same explanations. In 2007, he said certain things. In 2017, 10 years later, he said the exact same things, word for word, like a script he memorized and never updated. This tells you everything about him. He's not some profound evil mind. He's a damaged person who created a character to hide his weakness and pain. And now he's trapped with that character forever. You know, a lot of people online, especially young people who don't know better, they think Pichushkin is cool. They make him into this dark anti-hero, this rebel against society. They buy into his performance. But let me tell you something. I've known guys like this. I've been in places where you meet real criminals, real killers, and none of them are cool. None of them are romantic figures. They're broken people who broke other people. That's all. Pichushkin killed 49 human beings. 49 people who had families, memories, dreams. Fathers, brothers, sons. Yeah, many of them were struggling with alcoholism or homelessness. But that doesn't mean their lives were worthless. Every single one of them mattered. And you know what the saddest part is? This could have been prevented. Think about it. A 4-year-old child gets a traumatic brain injury on a playground. Does anyone do a proper neurological examination? No. Does anyone check if there's damage to the parts of the brain that control impulses, aggression, emotional regulation? No. A child struggles with reading and writing, gets bullied mercilessly at school. Does anyone provide real psychological support? No. Does anyone try to understand what's happening in his mind? No. They just shove him into a boarding school with other damaged kids and wash their hands of him. A teenage boy shows signs of violent behavior, rage episodes, aggressive outbursts. Does anyone send him to a psychiatrist? No. Does anyone intervene before it's too late? No. His mother was too busy with her new family. His grandfather abandoned him. The schools failed him. The doctors failed him. Society failed him. And on the other side of these failures were 49 victims who paid with their lives. Now, I'm not saying Pichushkin is innocent. He made choices. He chose to kill. He chose to keep killing. He's responsible for his actions. But I'm saying that monsters aren't born. They're made. Made by neglect, by cruelty, by a society that looks away when children are suffering. You know what I think about when I hear this story? I think about all the lonely kids out there right now, kids who are bullied, kids who are ignored, kids who feel invisible and worthless. And I think about how many of them could be saved if someone just paid attention, if someone just gave a shit. One kind word, one adult who believes in them, one person who sees their potential instead of their flaws. Sometimes that's all it takes to change the trajectory of a life. But we don't do that enough. We're too busy, too distracted, too comfortable. And then we're shocked when another monster emerges, when another Pichushkin starts killing. This is the real horror of this story. Not that one man became a serial killer, but that it was so fucking preventable. Alexander Pichushkin wanted to fill a chessboard with 64 victims. He wanted to be remembered as the greatest serial killer in Russian history. He wanted immortality through infamy. But you know what? In a few years, most people will forget his name. There will be other crimes, other killers, other headlines, and he'll be just another name in the archives, just another case file gathering dust. Meanwhile, the people he killed, they're gone forever, erased from existence. And that's the real tragedy here. So yeah, that's the story of the Bitsa Park Maniac, the chessboard killer, the man who wanted to be remembered but will ultimately be forgotten. And maybe that's the most fitting punishment of all. Not death, not even life in prison, but irrelevance. Being forgotten, becoming invisible again, just like he was as a child. Thanks for watching, guys. This was a heavy one, I know. But these are the real stories. This is what happened in my country, in my city. And I think it's important to understand not just what happened, but why it happened. Take care of each other out there. Pay attention to the people around you. You never know who needs help, who needs someone to see them, to hear them, to care. Until next time.